Now let's proceed to the biologic hazard. Okay, in your PMLS2, you were able to discuss the difference between biosafety and biosecurity. Okay, as a review, di ba, biosafety, um, to protect people from bad bugs. Yun yung biosafety. Ang pinoprotect natin dito is the people and the community from being contaminated with biologic agents, from being contaminated with infectious agents. So, biosafety is to protect people from bad bugs. Biosecurity naman is to protect bad bugs from bad people, because there is a tendency na these infectious agents can be used for biologic warfare. Okay? So, kapag ka ganon, syempre, dapat mayroong biosecurity measures para hindi intentionally makakos ng infection sa population or sa community. Okay? Now, in terms of biologic hazards, there are terms that we must define. First is biologic agent. The biologic agent, as discussed in infectious diseases, these are the different, this pertains to microbial entity capable of replicating or of transferring genetic materials that may provoke infection, allergy, or other adverse health effects to humans, animals, or plants. Example of biologic agents are the bacteria, the fungi, the parasites, and the viruses. And as discussed in the previous week sa epidemiology ninyo, 'di ba? Different biologic agents have different modes of transmission. So that must be considered also yung mode of transmission ng biologic agent. Okay? Another is biologic material. Biologic material is any material that may contain biologic agents and or other harmful products such as toxins and allergens. So example of biologic material kasi it comes from a living entity, pwedeng galing sa tao, pwedeng galing sa hayop, pwedeng galing sa halaman. Okay? Biologic material. Any material that comes from that comes from a living organism. And this biologic material can potentially contain infectious agent. Okay? Example, okay, yung pinaprocess natin sa lab, we have blood. We always consider blood as potentially infectious. Urine, sputum, or kung sa animals naman, droppings, pupo ng animals, or kahit wiwi ng animals, blood ng animals, okay? Or kung sa plant, mga plant tissue samples, okay? Those samples may contain infectious agents. And lastly, biohazard. Biohazard pertains to the potential source of harm caused by biologic materials. Example of these are contaminated apparatus. Okay? Okay. Example, in today's pandemic, sige, what is the biologic agent in today's pandemic? Nope, it's not COVID-19. It is rather, yes, SARS-CoV-2. COVID-19 class, yun yung pangalan ng disease, pangalan ng sakit. SARS-CoV-2, yun yung biologic agent, the causative agent that causes COVID-19. So when you are asked, what is the biologic agent in today's pandemic? You should answer SARS-CoV-2. Okay. Now, what is the biologic material? Yes, pwedeng blood. You're right. But the transmission of SARS-CoV-2 via blood is mababa lang kasi. Now, what is a sample obtained that may contain significant amount of the virus? Ano kaya? Yes, pwedeng body fluids like mucus, cough droplets, or sputum expectorated by the patient. So, kaya nga tayo, di ba, pinagsusuot ng mask kasi when we talk, when we sneeze, when we sing, when we cough, we release droplets. And those droplets may contain viruses, the SARS-CoV-2. Yun. Now, if the biologic agent is SARS-CoV-2 and the biologic material is droplets, cough droplets, for example, or sputum, for example, what is now the biohazard? Yes, pwedeng contaminated masks. Ano pa? Yes, pwede din yung swab na ginamit during naso collection of sample. Okay? Klaro ba yan siya, class? Okay. Now, when it comes to assessing hazards, class, or when it comes to assessing biologic hazards, biologic agent, biologic material, and biohazards are considered under biologic hazards. So, considered under the category of biologic hazards ang mga ito. So, for example, you will be asked, what is an example of a biologic hazard? Pwede kang sumagot ng in terms of biologic agent. You can say SARS-CoV-2. Or pwede din you can answer blood containing SARS-CoV-2. Or pwede din masks contaminated with cough droplets from a patient with SARS-CoV-2. So, ganon, class. Okay? Now, let's proceed to the next, ergonomics. Ergonomics is the science of fitting the task to the worker. Ergonomics is the art of matching job demands with worker capabilities. Ergonomics is the study of human characteristics for appropriate design of the living and work environment. Ergonomics is the application of human biological science and engineering science to achieve mutual adjustment of man and his work. Now, ergonomic hazards occur when the type of hazard, especially repetitive ones, and certain positions that can strain the body. Okay? So, eto na yung mga hazards, class, that can cause musculoskeletal injury. Now, these ergonomic hazards are most often difficult to recognize because the effects of these hazards build up over time. Okay? Kasi later mo pa mapapansin na sumasakit na pala yung likod mo. So, when you work uh, at the beginning of your work, nakaupo ka, sasakit ba agad ang likod mo? Di ba hindi naman? Usually, sasakit ang likod mo niyan later in the day. Or pag years ka na nagtatrabaho, years na rin sumasakit yung likod mo. So, the effect accumulates over time. Kaya mahirap siyang i-detect. Okay? And when it comes to workplace class, work activities should be examined properly in order to address ergonomic issues. Okay? The most common manifestation of of poor ergonomic class is back pain. Ito talaga pinaka-common. Kahit ako na teacher na nakatayo at saka nakaupo, likod talaga yung usual na sumasakit. Why? Because all forces which come down the spine compresses our intervertebral discs, and as a result of continuous squeezing, pwedeng mag-rupture yung ating mga discs. They can cause bulging and can cause severe pain. So, kaya back pain. Tsaka lower back ang manifestation. Less lang yung upper back. Okay? Now, when we talk of ergonomics class, this also pertains to proper positioning. Okay? Now, when it comes to lifting heavy objects, proper positioning should be applied. Okay? Kita nyo yung mga weightlifters. Diba they have straight back rule? Ba, hindi man yan sila naka-curve yung likod nila, naka-flat, naka-straight rather, naka-straight yung likod nila. Okay? Ganun yung rule class when lifting heavy objects. Okay? When transferring objects class, you have to consider the weight of the object. Siyempre, kung magaan ba or mabigat, yung size niya, kung masyado bang malaki, kung kakayanin nyo ba yung laki niya, and even the shape. Okay? Kasi kung regular, madali lang i-handle. Pag irregular yung shape, mahirapan ka mag-carry. So, dagdag burden yun sa'yo. Okay? Pwede ma-change ang position mo during carrying kapag irregular yung shape ng object. If there are alternatives class, for example, use of push carts, kung available yun, choose that option, of course. Huwag kayo masyadong pa-hero na, kaya ko to, magaan lang ito. No, siguro at first, kakayanin nyo. But over time, sasakit at sasakit talaga yung mga likod ninyo. Okay? Now, when lifting, okay, dito tignan ninyo ito si Kuya. When lifting, you bend the knees, position the legs apart, okay? Imagine niyo yung mga weightlifters. 'Di ba? Bikaka yun sila. Okay? 1 foot level with the load. Dapat yung load is 1 foot level. Okay? And remember to always keep your back straight. Okay? And then, when you lift with the legs. So, dapat yung mga legs ninyo yung magpupush. Okay? Yung mag-exert ng force, yung legs, hindi yung likod. Most of us, or karamihan sa atin, yung hindi alam yung proper weightlifting, likod talaga yung ginagamit. Kaya, most often times, sumasakit yung mga likod natin when we carry heavy objects. Kasi dapat talaga, pag nag-carry from sitting position to up, no? Pagka ililift pa natin, dapat legs yung nag-exert ng force. Okay? And then, when you have lifted up the weight na, kailangan to keep the load close to the body as much as possible, such as this one. Okay? Now, when you are to bend from your hips. Okay? Bend from your hips. Avoid twisting of your body as much as possible. Straight lang. And then, para mas may force kayo, you tighten your stomach dito sa core ninyo. You tighten your stomach muscles. But don't hold breath naman. You just tighten it. Okay? Sa core ninyo. Okay? And then, keep carrying distance short. Avoid changing grip or jerking the load. Huwag niyong masyadong i-move. Kailangan steady yung pagkakahawak ninyo. Okay? And then, when you unload, pag ibababa na naman ninyo, okay, you unload by bending your knees and keeping the back straight. So, same. Kung paano nyo siya nilift, di ba yung pag-lift ninyo, back straight, and then knees or legs yung nag-exert ng force. When you unload the object, you use your knees, you bend your knees, okay? Do not bend your back. Bend your knees, okay? And then you just keep your back straight to avoid strain. So, iwas back pain yun sa class. Okay? Klaro ba? Okay. Now, this is the basic and proper position in the office when you are seated. So, as you can see, straight back. Okay? Mahirap ito i-achieve, lalo na kung yung inuupuan natin is hindi siya ergonomic. Kung makita din ninyo yung mga gaming chair, yun yung mga ergonomic talaga, ang mga gaming chairs. Okay? Ano nga yan na brand ha? Panther ata yan siya na brand. Yung nakita ko. Yun, maganda yun siya na chair. Okay? Now, ito din yung position dapat class when you are working with a video display terminal. Example, when you're working with a computer. So, yung upuan, dapat naka-adjust siya na sakto lang sa inyo. Na dapat yung thighs ninyo is horizontal. Yan, horizontal thighs. And then yung feet is resting flat on the floor. Such as this one. Ma'am, naka-heels, it's still flat, no? Wala man naka-tiptoe yung ating worker dito. Okay? And then the thigh-torso angle should not be less than 90 degrees with 100 degrees as preferable. So again, bawal ang nakakuba. As much as possible, naka-straighten yung likod or a little arch back ka. Okay? Para hindi makuba, hindi sasakit yung likod ninyo. The chair should have a backrest, okay, such as this one, with a support for the curvature in your lumbar area. Kung makikita ninyo, di ba, yung mga gaming chair, parang may foam dito sa baba. Kasi yung foam na yun yung nagpo-provide ng support sa lumbar area ninyo. Okay? The wrists and the forearm should be held in straight line to reduce tendon and nerve stress. As you can see. Straight lang dapat yan. Upper and lower arm should be at a 90 degrees angle. So, yan. The head screen distance should be 25 to 48 inches. Minimum of 12 inches or 1 foot. Yan. So, dapat a little malayo from the monitor. Okay? And then optimal viewing is at angle of 20 degrees below. Okay, sorry. So, tulad nito, 20 degrees below. Yan, yung optimal angle of viewing. And kailangan yung monitor, no glare. Siyempre, masakit sa mata. Yung iba naglalagay ng protective screen, no? Para hindi masyadong sinag ang monitor. Or you can lower the brightness of the monitor. And then, nga pala, dapat yung monitor is must be placed at a 90 degree to the light source. Okay? So, dapat may adequate light source dito. 90 degree angle ang posisyon ng or location ng monitor from the light source. And then, ayun nga, you can use filters to avoid glare. You can adjust the brightness if you want. And of course, class, frequent breaks from screen to reduce stress on your eyes. Now, one way that you can reduce the stress is hanap kayo ng color blue kasi the color blue is cool and relaxing to the eyes. Or pwede din hanap kayo ng mga optical illusions. Yung mga optical illusions, good class na nagsasabi na if you are so much to stress, grabe yung pag-move ng mga optical illusions. Yes, totoo yun. When you see that the optical illusions are very much moving yun, very much stressed ka. But if the illusion is smooth and calm lang naman, hindi ka masyadong stress. Uy, alam nyo ba, yung sa mga optical illusion na yan, among the schizophrenic individuals, grabe yung movement nun. Kasi nga, highly mentally disturbed sila. Okay? Okay, so please maintain this position when you are working, especially now na naka-online class tayo. Most of you are looking at your laptops or your monitors, desktops. So, kailangan naka-proper positioning. Okay? Okay. And lastly, psychosocial hazards. Psychosocial hazards class are basically stressors that can affect the employee's psychological health both in short term and long term. Again, na-mention natin kanina na mental health problems can be multifactorial. And ang mental health problems naman pwedeng magsimula while we are still young. But still, factor ang workplace sa mental health natin because there are certain factors in our workplace environment that can trigger the occurrence of mental health problem. Or kung meron ng mental health problem yung patient or yung employee pwedeng mag-worsen because of the environment or the different factors present in the environment. So these hazards are associated with workplace issues also, like workload. Pag napakadami ng workload ng employee, ayun, grabe ang stress, no? Minsan pa may mga employees na nalolokaret because of the stressful work that they have. Grabe yung workload. Or pwede din the organization itself or the management, no? Kapag kayong leader, rather yung boss is hindi leader type, ay naku, yun, napaka-stressful talaga nun. So, kaya, when you try to apply for a job, kailangan nyo din talaga pag-aralan yung culture ng pag-a-applyan ninyo because the culture existing in the workplace can really affect your psychological and mental health. Okay? Now, psychosocial hazard can be because of lack of job satisfaction. It can result to lack of job satisfaction. Pwedeng makakos into insecurity or poor interpersonal relationships. Pwedeng makakos ng work pressure, ambiguity. At saka pag ganito yung experience ng worker class, ay bababa at bababa talaga ang performance ng worker. Okay, there may be psychosocial hazards, pwedeng psychological and behavioral changes such as hostility or aggressiveness in the workplace, no? Now, it can cause pwede magkaroon ng change in the behavior of the employee. Nung una niyang pasok is, ay, napakabait, maaliwalas ang personality, very friendly. Tapos, after 5 years of working, bugnutin na ang worker. Yun pala kasi na sobrang stress sa work. Okay? Na pwede ding makakos ng absenteeism. Yun nga, poor performance. And pwedeng makadevelop ng psychosomatic disorders. When you say psychosomatic disorders, no, it's not really, there really is no problem in the body, but the manifestation is because of the activity of the brain. No, so it can cause hypertension, headache. So these manifestations is because of the activity of our brain. So instead na wala ka naman talagang problema sa iyong cardiovascular, pero nagkaroon ka na tuloy ng hypertension because of stress. Okay, class, alam nyo, sa panahon ngayon sa COVID, grabe talaga ang mental health impact. Kasi I came to know one person na 3 months. 3 months talaga na hindi maayos yung tulog niya. 3 months talaga na anxious siya. Kaya, grabe, when June came, June ba or July, yung patient nakadevelop talaga ng anxiety disorder. So, grabe, frequent ang anxiety attacks. Feeling niya talaga mamamatay na siya. So, the patient now is actually undergoing therapy, medication. So, hopefully, no, he can recover. Kawawa naman yung patient, yung tao. Okay, let's proceed. Now, control measures. Now, control measures class are also called mitigation methods. Mitigation, so these mitigation methods can be implemented in order to prevent occupational hazards. Okay? Now, first is medical. Medical measures refers to health services that are immediately available in the workplace. Kaya nga meron tayong mga nurses, 'di ba? Merong mga naka-duty na meron tayong institutional physician because these healthcare workers in the institution provide immediate care in terms of injury or accidents kung meron mang mangyari. Other medical services include annual physical exam or mga psychosocial services. Merong mga institutions class na nag-hire sila ng mga psychologists and then ina-undergo nila ng therapy ang mga workers nila. Next is engineering controls. This pertains to the physical facilities or the engineering of the workstation. So this include facility design and architecture, the design of the use of equipment or facilities that will reduce or prevent exposure to hazard. So under engineering, example nitong engineering control class is, familiar naman kayo, di ba, with biosafety cabinets? Di ba it was discussed in your PMLS2 that biosafety cabinets are used when processing potentially infectious samples? The use of biosafety cabinets will protect the laboratory worker from being exposed or from acquiring infectious materials coming from the sample being processed. Or chemical fume hood. We can use fume hood when dealing with chemicals, especially volatile ones, and those with strong fumes. Now, it will help protect the worker from possible exposure to the vapor of the chemicals. And administrative controls naman pertain to the existing policies, mga standards, and guidelines in the institution. Now, in crafting administrative guidelines, they can refer to the OSHA standards. So, dito na pumapasok si OSHA sa administrative. So, these policies will serve to prevent hazards from happening. Administrative controls class also include proficiency and competency trainings. Now, class, important that yung worker will undergo proficiency trainings so that he will know what to do and how to do his job properly without exposing himself to the hazards. Example, tayo, medtech. Kaya tayo may internship because that serves not only as exposure to the industry but a form of training also. Pag naging RMT na kayo class and you apply for a job, hindi naman diretso salang agad sa work. Dadaan pa talaga kayo niyan into training para mas maging familiar kayo sa procedures and sa system ng laboratory. Now, yung PAMET, okay, they actually conduct proficiency trainings in an annual basis. So, example, drug testing, HIV proficiency testing, integrated parasitology proficiency testing, or malarial proficiency testing, and others. No, these trainings will help the RMT become updated, no, in terms of the current procedures and also refresh his skills. Class, di ibig sabihin na matagal ka na sa work, perfect na. Kailangan pa rin talaga ng regular training to be up to date and para mas ma-sharpen pa yung skills natin. Okay? Okay. Now, let's proceed to examples of different engineering controls. Okay, so designing building, workstation. So ito yung, this pertains to the engineering of the facility and the use of protective devices. Example of a protective equipment is yung ating biosafety cabinet. Okay. Workplace accidents and unplanned, unexpected occurrence that may or may not result in personal injury, property damage, work stoppage, or interference, or any combination of these conditions which arises out of or in the course of employment. Now, class, accidents happen. Okay? Hindi naman talaga yan siya maiiwasan. Kaya nga siya tinawag na accident kasi unintentional and unapprehended. Okay? Now, accidents happen because of the following elements. First is man. Maging reason si man for accident to happen if si man is first, purely accident talaga, inevitable, unapprehended. Walang kamalay-malay si man na mangyayari yung accident na yun. No? Again, accidents happen at time. Man can be a reason of accident if second, poor training of the procedure. Hindi alam ano at paano gagawin kaya ended up with an accident. Or hindi familiar with the machine or equipment kaya nagkaroon ng accident upon handling with that machine or equipment. Okay? And the other three are materials, machine, and environment. Now, the materials, machine, and environment are what can be adequately controlled using the mentioned control measures. So, pwedeng makontrol with engineering. Yun. Actually, si man pwedeng makontrol with administrative. Diba? Kasi merong guidelines, merong standards, merong SOPs. Yun. Pwede yun i-consult ni man. Okay? Now, the industrial hygienist and the safety engineer officer must work together, no, in order to design the workflow such that when performing work-related activities using machines and different materials, hazards are prevented. Yun yung pinakatrabaho talaga ng safety engineer and industrial hygienist, no, to design a workflow where hazards are prevented. Now, there are types of accidents such as fall, slips, caught on, in, or between. So, examples, foreign body in ice, strain or overexertion. And results of accidents, of course, pwedeng occupational injury, pwede magkaroon ng cuts, fractures, amputations, back injuries, strains, sprains, and even death. Or pwede din damage to property. Okay? Or another delay in production or service when accidents happen. Now, major causes of accidents can be in the form of unsafe acts. Okay, example of unsafe acts, Ayan, class. Use of taking unsafe positions, improper loading or placing or lifting. Ito din, using cell phones while working. 'Di ba? In our laboratory, we strictly prohibit the use of cell phone kasi class in the real workplace, sa laboratory, sa totoong laboratory na talaga, as much as possible, iwas talaga ang paggamit ng cellphone because cellphone is a form of unsafe act. Pwede kasi maging distraction si cellphone in your work. Another major cause of accident, unsafe conditions. Example, presence of hazardous arrangement. Hindi maayos yung pagkaka-arrange ng mga table, ng mga chair, yung mga cabinets, kung ano-ano na lang ang nakalagay sa itaas ng cabinets. Okay? Or pwede din masyadong masikip sa loob ng workplace ninyo. Or pwedeng yung machine mismo, defective. Or yung mga tools na ginamit, defective. Unsafe dress or apparel. 'Di ba? Napag-usapan na natin ito sa ating PMLS2. We really require you to properly wear your lab gowns, your lab coats, and also your lab shoes because that will protect you from unnecessary exposure to the hazards in the laboratory. Other unsafe conditions, class or environment, yan, slippery, wet, walking surfaces. Okay, so these conditions can result to accidents. So it is important na this will be identified and this will be addressed so that accidents will not occur. Other contributory factors, improper attitude. Nasa personality na talaga ng worker. Kahit anong training, kahit anong proficiency testing ang ipinasali sa kanya, pero accidents still happen, ay baka resistant si worker or baka rebellious ang nature ni worker kaya ayaw niya mag-follow sa protocol, ayaw niya mag-follow sa policy, baka ganun. Okay? Lack of education of training, syempre ito given talaga ito. Kaya nga, part of control measure, administrative, is for the worker to undergo training para ma-familiar with the procedure being performed, what to do and how to do it. And personal defects, physical or mental. So, siguro merong mental problem si worker kaya hindi niya ma-process yung policy or hindi niya ma-process yung instruction. In summary, for our discussion, occupational health is an important aspect of health and it is the right of the workers. The workplace should be hazard-free in order to achieve the highest degree of physical, mental, and social well-being of those who are working. Second, there are different types of hazards existing. These hazards must be identified, assessed, and evaluated so that appropriate control measures will be applied to prevent the risks associated with the hazards. The facility, organization, and workflow should be designed such that hazards are prevented. And lastly, it is the employer's responsibility that health and safety must be promoted in the workplace. So I hope that you understood what safety in the workplace is all about, why is it important, why is it linked to community and public health. So thank you so much for your time and for your attention in listening to this lecture. If you have any questions, kindly post them in our content discussion forum. Thank you.